Good morning, traders. So the markets are up this morning. We had the Fed rate decision coming out today. Probably gonna be more uh, rate discussion talk coming out of the Fed today. So basically, what we had happened with AMD yesterday, we came right down to the yearly low. Um, Double tagged it yesterday, and we're bouncing off that yearly low support. So that's actually very serious support that we're coming off of on AMD. We're into our current monthly pivot right here. If you look at my cursor, that's our current monthly pivot. We came right up to that and finding resistance initially this morning. So I'm really keeping that on watch here. AMD did manage to pull out a beat even after they had one or two reiterations lowering their guidance during out the quarter, and so they did have the bar pretty low for them to come back and beat that. So now we'll see if there's rotation going to come back into the semiconductors and stuff, and we'll see what happens in today's session. So that's a good thing. That's giving us a lift to some of the Techland and stuff like that. Okay. Okay, guys. So this morning, Microsoft lost the monthly pivot yesterday, or well, into last week. So it was about last Tuesday, I think, we lost the monthly pivot, um, and we're below the weekly pivot. And so we sold down on the earnings. We rebound most of what the sell-off was so far. Um, it kind of looks like a buy the dip with slight bearish signs here. We'll see what happens here. Ideally, what you're trying to do is to be bullish on a name. Ideally, you're really wanting to look at stuff that's still holding above the weekly and monthly pivots for a bullish bias. So just be mindful of that in today's session here on Microsoft. Starbucks came out. Looks like we had some fairly decent results on Starbucks this morning. We are at the monthly pivot, finding a little bit of resistance here at the monthly pivot on Starbucks. Not really a place that I would want to enter long here. We're right into resistance, so we'll see what happens in today's session. So some takeaways here: we are below our current our monthly pivot, and even tomorrow we're going to have our monthly pivot above us. Okay, and we're below our weekly pivot here, even on Meta, start kicking off the session today. So be mindful of that. I don't like going into August fighting, but still holding down below our pivots. So be mindful of that. I think Amazon's reporting too. That's another one. See, we're below our monthly pivots and are right at our weekly pivot. So that's a little bit more neutral. Looking a little, both of those are hovering right around the weekly pivots, uh, trying to find some bullishness, but still not there yet. So Tesla took a little bit of a hit yesterday. So we are above our monthly pivot, but we're slightly below our weekly pivot. This is a little bit better chart than most, so be mindful of that. Not really one you want to be looking heavily to the short side, in my opinion. Google, okay, so earnings came out. It blew through its monthly pivot. We're still down below that. We are trying to right around the monthly pivot here, or the weekly pivot here in the morning here. Let's keep an eye on this one here. By the dippers might be active in that, knowing that Meta's reporting tonight. So let's keep an eye on this one here. But it's not a. Ideally, you want to be above the monthly pivot and above the weekly pivot for the more solid setups. And like Tesla's got it, but Google's not really got that right now. Apple's above the monthly pivot It's right at the weekly pivot. This is actually a more bullish chart. It's actually probably one of the best charts out there. Let's just keep an eye on this one here. Okay, so the Megatex, this one here is really it looks like it's setting up the Wyckoff setup. You know, it looks like it's setting up for a bullish takeoff on Apple. So that's going to be my top watch this morning, Apple. See if we break above those prior highs where I can go take a long position on Apple. Other ones we're looking at here. So we got deeply oversold here on NVIDIA. We're still well below the weekly pivot this morning, which we're probably going to backtest that, the 114.68. I can definitely see that if we get any continuation in the bullish setup this morning. So, but we are still below our monthly pivots. So, you know, just be mindful of that. You know, it's just not an ideal setup, uh, but it's, you know, it's showing promise here. Okay, so in this situation, I would be looking to add shorts at the weekly pivot for downward chop generally, assuming you know the money flows in the broader markets justify that. So if we come in the advanced decline, if we got a weak advanced decline, if we have a weak UVOL devol, you know, I would be looking, you know, shorting resistance on something like this. If none of you have looked at the internal trade chart, see, this is your advanced decline. This is your UVOL devol. Okay. So if we come in with relatively weak numbers, that means we're not having a commitment. You know, as you go throughout the day, these should accumulate if you're getting a trending day, one direction or the other. Okay. Uh, Plus your put to call ratio, you don't want to be seeing uh, as this is going up. That's actually a more bearish sign to the markets. So that means there's more puts coming in than calls. So you're actually wanting this to be an inverse chart. This is actually coming down for a bullish stance in the markets, and you're looking for ticks nearing 1,000, positive, negative, or negative, to suggest a directional. I don't think it's going to happen because of the it's a Fed day, so it could just be a slow directional bleed. So now we have a double tag of our monthly pivot. Okay, so you know this is a constructive bullish signal for SPY. So be mindful of this. A double tag off our monthly pivot. We're breaking above the consolidation area. This is a much more bullish signal, and we're above our weekly pivot as well. So, you know, honestly, I will be looking to the long side, not the short side today. You're actually a little bit more weak in the Qs. You're still below the monthly pivot. You're still technically below the weekly pivot here on the Qs. IWM very strong, still above our weekly pivot. I would be looking to the long side of a back test of the weekly pivot. You know, so on that one, diamonds very strong, just very strong. Period. The diamonds are, and remember, Apple's a major component to that, and Apple's charts look really good. Looks like we could see some expansion. So all told, to me, it looks like a more bullish setup coming into today's session. Okay. I almost forgot. Boeing did report. We're holding above the monthly pivot, and now we're well above the weekly pivot on that. That's looking promising for Boeing here, so be mindful of that. ARM's another one that reported. No, ARM reports tonight, so it's not out yet. Double check. That's tonight, right? Yeah, it's tonight. Okay, that's the only big one. Oh, Disney down here. That's next week, I guess. Coin's next week too. Okay. Okay. There is a sign that Asmol, they are going to be exempt from the uh, trade uh, trade issues with China. So they're getting an initial pop this morning, looking really positive. This could actually have some legs today, so let's keep a close eye on that. It is deeply discounted here. Now we have a big gap below us that could fill, but it does sound like that a couple uh, uh, a couple semiconductor companies are going to be exempt from selling equipment and chips and stuff to China. So there must have been some serious international political pressure to uh, for that reasoning. Okay, yeah, that's all I got to say. Like I said, slightly leaning to the bullish side, and Apple looks great. Spy looks great. Looks good. Let's say good. Spy looks good. Apple looks good. So let's go from there. Okay. See, I will have my live stream going this morning here on Discord.